look, in a week where Keir Starmer's been cozying up to Emmanuel Macron in France in a shady deal to betray 17.4 million Brexit voters, a meeting, by the way, brokered by the bad smell that won't go away, Tony Blair, these losers in London today saw fit to complain about a vote that took place 7 years ago. All they could complain about is airport queues. I haven't seen any of those, by the way. I think they're a myth. And, bizarrely, how their tea cloths from Germany weren't getting delivered because of random custom charges. Now, look, my point is, you've lost the vote. We're not going back into the EU. Stand by democracy and get on board with Brexit. Because at the moment, Brexit's not been allowed to get started. It's been blocked at every turn by the civil service, politicians, the courts, and crybaby losers like these. So get on board with Brexit, remoaners. It's not changing. Get Britain booming again.
I mean, Ben, looking at the fact that in the news there, Tatiana said they sent the Metropolitan Police out, what the hell were they going to do? Fight each other with hummus? I mean, it's just obscene.
Throw muesli at each other.
And a lot of them look quite old as well. Now, I've got absolutely nothing against elderly people, but wasn't the whole narrative that we were stealing young people's futures by voting for Brexit? Now, a lot of those, they looked like they quite old, possibly had homes in Spain for many years.
It felt like the world's biggest nursing home down there today. Lots of pale, lots of stale. The same thing they accused Brexiteers of being, by the way. And I think, Patrick, you had a...
Well, exactly that. And this is the thing. Again, as you rightly said there, absolutely nothing against old people whatsoever. Far from it. I think we've, you know, these are our greatest generation that people, frankly, our age, should be learning a heck of a lot from. But it is the hypocrisy of what Brexiteers were accused of being. Old, pale, you know, too white, etc. I don't know if we might have a picture at some point as well of this bus that was on its way to there we go, look at that, right? OK, so look, can you imagine if that was a bus full of Brexiteers? So they like having sex with flags. That was one of the accusations, wasn't it? Well, there's a lot of flags there for them that they seem to be proudly wearing close to their body. Quite old. I can't see any racial distinctions there other than them being white. If that was a bus full of Brexiteers, Remainers would be getting stuck right in, wouldn't they?
I remember Jon Snow. Jon Snow said that a Brexit demonstration, a pro-Brexit demonstration, was too white. I mean, do you not think that demonstration, Lewis, is too white?
Do you know what I think? I think none of this is helpful. I mean, Ben, in your monologue, you're saying we need to come together and get behind it. Meanwhile, you're calling them losers, unwashed, get on board, like, they're old, like, stale, too white. Like, come on, we do... I agree with you that we need to come together. That Brexit ship has sailed. I don't think that it's helped by people still, you know, wishing that we were in. I do get your point on that. But I also think that the Brexiteers, like... Get with the programme. It's not been a success. I don't think Nigel Farage would say it's been a success.
No one's allowed it to start.
Do you know what? I think it's quite cute that they all went down there in their, you know, their flags. I mean, they're clearly deluded. What? They think something is going to...
Deluded, that's going to help.
And they go, no, I don't mean to...
Come on, guys, why don't you agree with us?
I don't mean deluded in a nasty way, but just because I do not think we are going to rejoin the European Union. It's just not going to happen. But I think it's quite sweet that they had a little day out in London. You know, I'm being very patronising here, but why not? They are very patronising to Brexiteers. But
it's a day off for everyone else.
But hang on, I'm going to come in here and rain a little bit on your parade.
Please.
Because if you look at the latest polling, and I've got it here to hand, only 9% of people think Brexit has been a success. So it's hardly
surprising.
According
to what? Polls?
Well, yes, a poll. But OK.
Is that the same polls that said...
It's an indicator.
Is that the same poll that said Remain would win by 60% and that Trump would lose to Hillary Clinton?
No, but what I'm saying is, now, I always take polling with a pinch of salt, like everyone should, but that is an indicator to suggest why some people might feel like they have a chance
they're being fed some fake doses of optimism from scammy pollsters. I mean, even that guy in the VT said to me 60% of people now want to rejoin the EU. He said it was a YouGov poll. I held him up on it. It turned out he was talking nonsense.
But why are we still fighting these Remainer...
Well, because I'll tell you that you've just led me nicely onto what I wanted to say, which is this. I actually don't agree with Emily. I do think Brexit is in peril. And, you know, I'm someone that's talked about Brexit being in peril for some time. But this time, I really think Sir Keir Starmer and with Blair behind him, as you just said, the turd that won't flush, all pushing for us to have associate membership of the EU. That's taken us back in. That is a betrayal of our vote. And I think that's never been more of a fearful prospect.
Can I just quickly point out on this? I actually think that the more Keir Starmer opens his mouth, the more unpopular his policies are,
Oh my gosh.
which makes a hung parliament more likely,
Yeah, it
which
does.
makes the Lib Dems more likely to be the power brokers, which makes a second referendum or rejoining the EU even more likely. So, yes, I agree.
Lewis?
I actually don't want that. I think that we do need to get on board because small businesses are really hurting at the moment. We need to really figure out how to get through that red tape. We're still paying the EU like billions of pounds a year as well. It's not been a success, but I do think going back is not going to be. It's not going to be any more helpful.
It doesn't help, does it, when the government tries to get rid of a tiny bit of EU red tape around housing, around this nutrient neutrality rules, and everyone is, throwing their toys out the pram because it's the most awful thing they've ever heard. I mean, it's very difficult for us to do anything.
By the way, just on Starmer, he was cruising to an election victory. The Tories are hapless, and the moment he should have done a Joe Biden and hidden in his basement. The moment he opens his mouth, he has about 3 or 4 consecutive gaffes on migration, EU returns bills, cozying up to Macron in France, exchanging gifts. He should have just kept his mouth shut, but he could have scuppered it now, in my opinion.
Well, you might be right, actually. These people might not actually be deluded. We may well end up back in the European Union. Let us know what you think at home.